Can you hear me?
Welcome to a special edition of Astro Live. We are here discussing the New York City mayoral election, and we are going to call it for Mamdani. That's right, we're using astrology to predict that Mamdani is going to win and be the next mayor of New York City. And joining me to discuss the politics and the astrology of the moment is my associate Fred, who works in politics, but is also moonlights as an astrologer. How are you doing, Fred?
I'm doing great. How's everyone doing tonight? Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I We've been having some technical difficulties, so hopefully you don't drop out during the stream. I've saged the computer, so everything should be under control. There should no longer be any, nefarious spirits lurking within the computer to try and stop us from, talking about Mamdani's victory, which is what we're here to discuss tonight. Um, yeah,
There are no technical difficulties. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that if there are technical difficulties, it'll be because of my ADHD. So the setup here is that I'm actually on my phone. Alex is in his office in an Eames chair and a suit, and I am like an anime avatar on my phone. And so I have to resist the impulse to leave the screen because every time I leave the screen, the audio will cut out. So I'm really trying to lock in and be very focused and disciplined to stay on the screen so that we do not encounter any technical difficulties because we're both very excited to use astrology to help people understand why Mamdani is going to win the race for New York City mayor tonight. Polls close in 57 minutes. And yeah, we're really excited to, give you guys the Astro tea.
yeah. So, as we said, we are predicting that Mamdani's going to win, and we're going to get into why we think that, and also talk about kind of the mundane astrology that's going on both currently and in the near and far future, and how Mamdani's story plays a part in all of that. So, yeah, I guess let's just get started with the presentation. So, um, all right, so basically, biggest thing is that the turnout is insane for this race.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's throughout the day the numbers have kept coming in, and it's gone even past this, hasn't it, Fred?
Well, as of 3 p.m. today, turnout was already at 1.45 million ballots cast, which is extraordinary because I think this really exceeded the expectations of all of the modeling pollsters who were using mathematical modeling to predict turnout. And so, I couldn't say what the total numbers will be by the time polls close, but certainly it will exceed numbers not seen since 1969. So this is extraordinary, and I think it's safe to say that this enthusiasm that we're seeing at the polls today is not because Andrew Cuomo is such an incredibly charismatic candidate or that he is the one that people are looking to save New York from the predations of Donald Trump. That's actually not why that is. And so hopefully over the next couple of hours we'll be able to unpack why these turnout numbers are so enormous.
Yeah, it really is something. There's record numbers. Going forward, I mean, we were gonna just go through each of the charts of
Yeah,
people,
let's just
and
jump in.
so
Let's just jump
let's
right
do
into
that.
Andrew Cuomo's
So
chart. You take it away.
yeah,
Take it away, Alex.
here we've got Andrew Cuomo's chart. These are the contestants, right, in the election today, and he's choice number one for possible mayor. Now, we see in his chart there's this combination here of Mars and Rahu. So Mars, can represent libido and sexual drive, and Rahu can be this corrupting force. And additionally, the third house, the seventh house, and the 11th house are all associated with sex and relationships and other people. And so when you have Mars and Rahu together in the third, seventh, or the 11th house, you get a kind of corruption of the sexuality and leads to perversions or other kinds of sexual misconduct. And uh, Cuomo is known for that. So it's interesting he has this signature in his chart for having unusual sexual tastes when he's several women have accused him. I think 19 women.
19 women, yeah, credibly accused him of sexual assault, leading to his disgraceful, you know, him having to disgracefully vacate his office of governor in 2021. People forget that Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York State.
Yes, he was. He was. He had to resign as a result of this scandal. Another thing about his chart is that he's got Saturn conjunct the sun, and it's a full moon because the moon is here in Gemini and the sun is over here in Sagittarius. So he's born on a full moon. You see this a lot with people that, that it's like kind of larger than life personality, right? And when Saturn's conjunct the sun, it's said that this can make rulers, especially if you also have Jupiter up here on the midheaven, which is the most visible part of the chart. This is the chart that represents the career, and so he does also have a signature for being a politician in his chart, with the way the Jupiter and the Sun and Saturn are all arranged. So yeah, definitely in his chart to be a politician. What do you think about that, Winnie or Fred?
He has been a public servant and has served, in various like elected offices since like the early 90s. So yes, I mean, people call him a nepo baby because his father was Mario Cuomo. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. Definitely, it's true. But what remains true is the delineation of Sun conjunct Saturn. People who have that aspect in their natal chart do tend to favor, very structured work that could be jobs within the government, for example. And so I think that like that's a pretty accurate analysis of like that standout transit in his chart. I mean, he served as Clinton's like HUD secretary, so he was already like the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And then, he was the Attorney General of New York State. And then he became the governor. And, I don't think he ever anticipated that he was going to have to resign, because I think that, when he ascended to his role into the role of governor of New York, I think that like for him, he really really expected that the next step would be to become president of the United States. I mean, he harbored presidential aspirations, right? Like that's the trajectory. Governors traditionally run for president, and they often fare very well. And so I think he really didn't expect that this scandal would derail him. And just to correct what I asserted earlier, it was a total of 13 women who accused him of harassment, of sexual harassment. So, and this report was released by the Department of Justice in January 2024. It was finalized and released under a Biden DOJ. It was released in 2024. But in 2021, he had to resign from office because the Attorney General in New York then and now, Tish James, basically said he had to go. So, and now he finds himself, running for mayor of New York City and endorsed by Trump and Stephen Miller and also Elon Musk. And he's also going to find himself, taking the L tonight. Also
Yeah, kind of
tomorrow.
kind of a downgrade from his past to run for mayor here. Yeah. Sh- you want to go move on to the next chart? Talk about the next person?
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
we
is there
should.
anything else in
Oh,
Cuomo's chart?
actually, we have this other slide about Cuomo.
Yeah, well, this slide, we wanted to put this slide up because this is a photo of Cuomo wearing what appears to be draped in a drug rug and holding a bottle of either malt liquor or Saratoga Springs spring water. We don't really know. I guess you could zoom in. And he is beleaguered and ready to vacate the office of governor. This photo was like taken sometime in 2021 when he was really kind of facing down like the need to remove himself from office or be removed. So,
Yeah, yeah, not a good time for him.
no,
Um,
not a good time. Not a good look either.
yeah, now we've got Mamdani's chart. So to me, I mean, one of the first things that stands out about Mamdani's chart is he has this Jupiter Venus conjunction here in the second house. Now, this is said to give someone a beautiful face and a beautiful voice, right? It's also said to make someone a good singer, especially when Venus is rising before the sun, which it is here. And so, yeah, that's one very classical interpretation of this. And Mamdani actually was or is a musical artist. He's a vocalist. He's actually produced music. I have a clip of it here I'd like to share with you guys. So here's an example of Mamdani's music. Okay, so you get the idea.
Mamdani here is
Clearly
is
not afraid to take
expressing his own.
risks and rub people the wrong way, potentially.
Well, I mean, he, prior to him becoming a state assembly member, and now, the front runner that we're predicting will win the New York City mayor's race, he was a rapper who went by the name of Mr. Cardamom. And the clip that you guys just saw is from his single, which was not really a hit and probably only seen by extended family members and friends of his from college. The single is called Nanny, which I think is a reference to his grandmother. And I think there's another person featured in the, the music video who is a famed Indian chef and cookbook author named Madhur Jeffrey. And yeah, I mean, he was a rapper.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems I thought he was trying to be funny with the whole yin yang twins and an old woman. I mean, he's clearly trying to be humorous with this. I mean, there's no way it could be serious, obviously.
No, I don't think he's being serious, but he does
Uh,
have a beautiful face. I mean, like, I think that we can all agree that he has a beautiful face. I think this is what is triggering to so many people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Conventionally attractive and also good speaking voice, good oral ability. But I mean, as we can see with like, the rap videos and stuff, I mean, he is very much Leo rising with this kind of, attention seeking. He loves the spotlight, and
Loves
he's
the
not
spotlight.
afraid to like be aggressive because he's got Mars and Saturn square on the angles. And so he's just kind of very full frontal with everything.
Well,
Um,
he's very charismatic. I mean, Leo risings are very charismatic. I say this as a Leo rising in 19 degrees myself, and not afraid of confrontation, not afraid of taking center stage, not afraid of taking the microphone, not afraid of like just boldly embodying the power of like someone who has like Leo in the first house. I mean, that is who he is. But in addition to like some of these other, I mean, I actually think he has a really amazing chart. I think it's really beautiful. And I think he is extremely driven and extremely ambitious. And you can see that. right there where his Saturn is, where he has Saturn in Aquarius in the seventh house, you know, he's just a very driven person. He's very purposeful. He knows what he wants, and he's going to get it at any cost, right? And when
Yes.
I say at any cost, it's not that he's like he'll act, with impunity or he'll be amoral in any way. He's just extremely, extremely driven and is able to fuse like the drive with the discipline that befits someone who has Saturn exalted in Aquarius at like the anoretic degree. That is a really powerful placement to have in your natal chart, and I think it really is defining for who he is. I mean, yes, obviously, like you look at this like music video that he made when he was like very young, and it's like funny that his name was Mr. Cardamom, but like it was just another sort of adventure for him.
Right. Yeah. And what you were saying about the Mars Saturn square, I agree. The fact that it's changed, they are both planets recently changed signs and they're at 0 degrees, and they're both on the angles of the chart. All right. Opposite his ascendant and opposite his midheaven on the, at this is going to just increase this power. And a lot of the old texts say that Mars and Saturn in angles, right, if they are in good condition, can make leaders, kind of military leaders, people that are ruthless and willing to do what it takes to succeed, army generals, things like that, people that lead rebellions, things like that, which sounds like a kind of plutonic archetype. And we see that he is very, I think, a Pluto archetype,
Yeah,
or perhaps the response to him is plutonic. He has the moon square, closely applying to 90-degree aspect with Pluto. So the square aspect is one of tension, and it's within 2 degrees of being perfect. This square here, we see it. And this is going to activate Pluto in his chart and is going to make Pluto part of how he's seen, because the moon is here in the seventh house. The seventh house deals with how we deal with other people. The moon is the social planet. It's communicating with others, our emotions and thoughts and feelings. And so he's a very Plutonian archetype. And I think,
sure.
um, the fact that Pluto is getting activated right now is kind of
Well, if you look,
I think that's good for him.
if you look at the fourth house, it looks like he's got a Scorpio stellium there, right? Like, I'm like,
Well, he has Mars and Mercury and Pluto all
yeah,
in.
in the fourth house in Scorpio. Yeah,
So
and also, he is just out of like his Saturn return, so he's really in his prime right now. I mean, he's just got so much energy and like force and power and drive that I think that like combined with some of the sort of Plutonian signatures in his chart, and then also like the Plutonian signatures that are like dominating the the astrology of like the now, it's really kind of a perfect storm for him.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, let's we can come back to Mom Donnie's chart. I'm sure we will later in the stream. But
Yeah, we're leaning into Mamdani's chart only because like we are basically like saying with confidence that Mamdani is going to win.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we should pay attention to all the charts, and we've got Curtis Sliwa
And we're
here.
moving on to Sliwa.
Yeah,
Very
yeah. So kind of an interesting example. So Sliwa claims to have been shot on the orders of the Gambino crime family June 19th, 1992. Um, Fred, do you want to give the audience some background about Curtis Sliwa and who he is and how he came
sure.
to be involved in being mixed up with the Gambino crime family?
Well, I mean, Sliwa's a native of New York, right? So he's like a native New Yorker. He was born and raised here, son of like a working class, like, he's like from a working class family. He's definitely like roamed these streets during a time when New York was very different than the New York of of today. And so he has a very interesting and colorful history. He founded an organization called the Guardian Angels, which basically like patrolled the New York City subways when it was allegedly dangerous to ride the subway. I wouldn't know because I did not grow up in New York, so I didn't ride the subway when I was a teenager. And so I think he likely got involved in all kinds of, oh, I don't know, like kerfluffles or like strange dealings with interesting characters, while kind of like making merry on the streets of New York. And somehow in 1992 he got like mixed up with the Gambino crime family, and he was shot in the back of a taxi cab 5 times. He was shot. This is true, but we don't know for a fact because no one's ever been arrested for
Right, but it's never been proven.
it's never been proven. But
Yeah.
yes, it's true. I mean, he was shot. He's like, this photo that you're looking at is a photo of him showing his scars years later, or several years later. But he, asserts that he was shot on the evening of June 19th, um, on the order of a hit by John Gotti Sr. So I don't know.
I thought it'd be fun to take a look and see, the transits that he was having during that day.
Yeah,
here he is with the Guardian Angels.
yeah. Look at these guys. They're pretty cute. I mean, they look great.
Yeah, they do. They do look great.
I mean, they're incredibly stylish, and I would not mind, riding with these cats on the subway any day of the week. But let's pull up the transit chart for June 19th, and then take a look at like, what might have happened to him that day. Well, we know that he definitely got shot because he has the scars to prove it. But like, let's see what we see.
Yeah, so here we've got the inner chart with the blue planetary glyphs. That's the natal chart. The outer ring with the orange planetary glyphs are the transits for the day of June 19th, 1992. Okay, so what jumps out at me immediately is that a few days prior to this, there was an eclipse in Gemini and Sagittarius that was conjunct his Jupiter. Now, Jupiter, activations of Jupiter are often associated with near death experiences or actual death experiences. I remember Sam Reynolds at Unlock Astrology posted once about how Jupiter activations often coincide with someone passing on or having a near death experience. And he said that several years ago. And I've watched in the time since, and I've seen it come up quite a bit when someone dies or comes close to dying, is that their Jupiter will take a hit with the transits. And just a couple days before this, Sliwa's Jupiter was eclipsed. And also, we have, here, let me turn the highlighter on. We have Saturn here, the planet of restrictions and loss, and it's a malefic planet, right? It's right here conjunct the moon. The moon is a personal planet, represents, the person's, mind and inner state. And so Saturn's also stationing retrograde right near this moon. And so that's going to make the Saturn moon transit even rougher. So, and also he has Mars conjunct his sun at the same time. So it's just like all of the sensitive parts of his chart are getting attacked by the bad guys, the eclipses, Rahu and Ketu, Saturn, Mars, everything is being afflicted, and yet he pulled through. And it was only a near-death experience. But, it's interesting to see the kinds of transits people are going through when they have extreme life experiences like this.
I will admit I have not like taken a deep dive into his chart until we started kind of talking and preparing for this episode. But it would be very interesting to see like why it is he pulled through, because I bet we could find that. There might be some signature in his chart, because that, it is like pretty, it's a pretty intense hit to be shot 5 times. in the back of the cab and survived. Not only did he survive, he thrived. He went on to have this remarkable
Uh,
career
yeah.
as just a personality, a political personality with incredibly incoherent politics, right? Like it must be said that like it's really kind of a miracle that he's, polling as well as he has been. And, tonight he's, likely going to get a large chunk of votes. I mean, it's nowhere near obviously what like Cuomo is going to get, but, he was polling in the high teens. So it's really remarkable to see how far he's come. And I think it's interesting to see like that you're pointing out that the activation happened during an eclipse, because you and I have talked a lot about how we both really feel like nodal like eclipse activations are really reliable narrators of like a person's like story. And
Yes.
so
Yes, they
it's very,
are.
very interesting probably to, I mean, maybe not for this episode, but like at another time to like look at the Sliwa like chart over time and see like what we see and see where those like sensitive points are activated, because I really think it's remarkable that he survived this, and not only survived it but then went on to have this like really wild career, sort of beset with like financial instability, and then sort of sometimes running with the laws, and then, public mockery, all of those things happened, culminating with like where he is tonight, a national figure that is not really like the people who are like he's become like a meme, right? Like he's like actually been embraced. He's like a beloved figure now and has become a national figure. He's like, he's famous. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he's also just like lucky. Like he has this Jupiter here that's right here on his descendant, which is going to be, favors from other people. It's trine his moon. So he's lucky. Jupiter is also in the second sign following the sun. This is another thing that's going to make people immediately like him on first
Yeah.
impression, right? He's going to just make a good first impression with that Jupiter there. Now, Mercury over here in the sign, 12th sign from the sun, that may give his words a bit of bite. And after that, people get to know him a little better, they may not like him as much as they do when they first meet him. I don't know. I've never met the guy, but I'd be willing to bet that a lot of people may really like him at first and then not as time goes on.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's really interesting that he rejected the numerous offers or entreaties, because we don't actually know if there were offers made, but there were a lot of public entreaties made for him to drop out, right, from all kinds of very high profile people. And he resisted, those solicitations. And so it's like, I'm curious to know, like, why that might be, and like if we can see that in his chart, because like likely he would have been offered enormous sums of money, like really like eye-watering sums of money to step down. Because if he had done that, then I think that like the race tonight would be a lot closer. And obviously we're not like at that point in the episode yet, so we're not going to kind of get into like what we think the numbers are going to be. We'll get to that a little bit later. We're just sort of focused on Sliwa right now. Um, but like, what would have? I mean, if you asked me to put my political hat on and you said, "Hey, like, how much do you think he would have been offered?" It would have had to have been seven figures or more. Definitely seven figures, not eight figures, but seven figures. When you factor in that, $100 million plus has been spent by outside super PACs to try to stop Mamdani. Like they would have offered him a lot of money and lots of, I'm sure, perks, but for him to resist it and just, you know, move forward, there's something in the chart that must suggest that.
Yeah, yeah. I think there must be. I don't know. Perhaps he is, you know, perhaps he got another offer from Mamdani that's better. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
maybe.
see. We'll talk about that maybe
We'll
later.
talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Um, so going on, I mean, all right. So here, it's time to defend our prediction that Mamdani's going to win. Okay.
But it's
So,
only 8:30. Are we too early in the episode? Like I feel
uh,
like we skipped over the 30 minutes like before polls close. We've got a lot of time to fill here.
right. Okay. We, well, I mean, who knows
But
if we're going
we
to
can
get
also
to
jump
the.
into it. That's fine.
No, no, no.
We can
Well,
jump into it. That's fine.
what else should we talk about then? I'm down to talk about more things, but I think that once we get through this, then we
We
can
can go
open it up
back,
for
yeah, and then
callers.
sort of talk about like the context.
Yeah.
Give more context to sort of
Yeah, yeah. We can go back and always flesh it out more. So basically, the way I'm looking at this is like, all right, suppose we're wrong. What's the best argument for Cuomo winning, right? And Cuomo is going through some decent transits right now. Now, I know that these transits may not always give the results if the person's not in the right dasha period, but we're going to ignore that for now. Um, Here we've got some quotes about the kind of activations that Cuomo's experiencing in his chart, right? It says he'll become famous, others will respect and follow his words, he will succeed over his enemies, he may even become minister, right? So, and this is due to Jupiter and Saturn and their transits relative to his moon sign, natal moon sign, that gives these results. So, these are good for Cuomo. Um, but another thing that's good for Cuomo is that he is undergoing a recurrence of the Mercury retrograde that happened in 2018. Now, this is something that Gary Caton at Hermetic Astro, he's written about these Mercury retrograde cycles. And basically, in a nutshell, simplified version of it is that Mercury retrogrades in the same spot in the zodiac at an irregular 6 to 7 years period. And so every 6 to 7 years, Mercury is going to retrograde in the same part of the zodiac as it did. Now, this means that there's going to be similar themes that repeat when Mercury retrogrades in that same part of the zodiac. So it was retrograding from the early degrees of Sagittarius back into Scorpio during the 2018 election. And this is when Cuomo won the governor. And so the fact that Mercury is retrograding in the same spot again while he's up for election, this does give him an advantage here. This is good, right?
yeah.
You would expect, right? If he was successful with this kind of Mercury retrograde before, it would be good again. But there's some things about this Mercury retrograde that
Yep.
aren't quite so good.
Well, I don't know if they're not good. I think that when Alex and I talked about this, sort of in the test run, we brought up that like this is an unusual Mercury in retrograde. This is not your usual Mercury in retrograde, and so when the setup is different, surprises can happen. So yeah, I mean,
Yes.
he had a really great Mercury in retrograde last time, and ostensibly it looks like this Mercury in retrograde that we're about to head into will also be really great for him. But will it?
Yeah,
Right?
I'm not
Like,
so
let's try to
sure it
answer that
will.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Mercury went
Um,
out of bounds on the 1st. It'll be out of bounds for 10 days. So that is a little bit of a wild card. We don't really know what that means. Mercury is stationing through two signs for this retrograde
yes.
period. It's in Sagittarius first and
Yes.
then in Scorpio.
Now, to speak
So,
to that,
yeah.
I think is and a distinguishing factor is that last time in 2018, when Mercury stationed retrograde, it did so much closer to Cuomo's Sun and Saturn than it's going to this time. And additionally, the Mercury retrograde took place slightly earlier, and so the retrograde was actually occurring during the election, whereas here Mercury is about to station retrograde on the election, and so the retrograde isn't really happening during the election this time like it was back in 2018. And so to
Yeah.
me, that's a big difference.
Yeah. Instead, what is happening is um, other challenging astrology. Not necessarily for
Yes.
him, but challenging astrology right now. Or
Yes.
not necessarily challenging, but like, like certainly not like placid astrology.
Yeah, no, it's what does S.J. Anderson like to say? A dynamic activation.
Yeah, it's a
That's a
dynamic
very
activation.
nice euphemism for shit hitting the fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people think that like the full moon in Taurus that we're about to like roll into in the next like several hours is going to be beautiful because the moon exalts in Taurus. That's not true.
No, it's not true. It's
That's
not
just not
true.
true. So that this is the thing that we want people to get away from, like when they, are like listening to astrology content, is to sort of like take it at face value when the astrologer says, "Listen, this full moon is going to be beautiful and calming and lovely and gorgeous because the moon exalts in Taurus." That's factually true. The moon does exalt in Taurus, but you have to like look at the totality of all of the transits to be able to tell like the real
Yeah.
story.
Well, so the thing is that this Mars Rahu conjunction that Cuomo has here, which we previously, attributed this feature of his chart to the kind of sexual scandals and the fall from grace and all of this. Now, this full moon is happening right in between the Rahu and the Mars. So this full moon splits the difference between his nodes and Mars and is right here on his angles. I mean, that is not a comfortable place for the full moon to be activating this chart. Uh, I just, yeah, I don't think it's good for Cuomo that this Mars Rahu conjunction gets activated by this full moon, because the full moon is here at 12 degrees of Scorpio. Fred, are you with us? You were making some gurgling noises. Fred, I cannot hear you, Fred.
I'm back. I'm back.
Oh,
I'm back. I'm back.
okay. You're back, but you sound robotic.
If I sound robotic, I may have to like sign in. Am I robotic or am I good? What
Yeah, you sound
do you
kind of
think?
chipmunk. Uh, did you switch away and go to look at something else
I
on your
did switch
phone?
away. ADHD kicked back in, and then
Right.
I had to switch
Now
it
you
again,
have
which is terrible.
oh, look at this. Now you have to rejoin now.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. I have ADHD. You can tell.
I guess you get what you pay for when it comes to help, right? Uh, hey guys, how's it going? So yeah, this full moon not good for Cuomo, right? I think that despite the fact that Mercury could be helping him, it's kind of being spoiled uh, here.
The reason why this is happening is because my phone has started to blow up with text messages, with like returns from the other elections and races that are happening across the country. Because I want to remind everybody, I'm not actually an astrologer by profession. I do politics for work, and I just moonlight as an astrologer. And so, sorry for having to not be totally like locked in here. Like I keep getting like text messages about like other races that are happening and returns that are coming back.
Well, what are the returns right now? Should we take a look?
Well, Abigail Spanberger has won in Virginia, which I guess is good. I mean, if you're like supporting the Democrats and this is what you want Abigail Spanberger to win. 20 minutes left for voting in New York, so that's not, polls aren't going to close till 9. So, and then California, we are 3 hours ahead, so voting is underway. And
Your
then
your
New Jersey voting is, I think maybe
your
that's going to
voice
be
is
close to New Jersey.
clipping a little bit.
Is it clipping now?
No, it's not clipping now.
Okay.
It's much better now.
Sorry, folks.
All right,
Okay,
so
let's move on.
yeah, let's move. Let's keep moving. All right, so there's another thing is that Mamdani does have some transits that are said to not be good. Now again, not all of these are going to be active, but just to give you an idea of the influences he's facing, he can be challenged through thieves, fire, and ruler. He earns the enmities of elders and very important persons. Foul play will be set up to put down the native. right? So, there are some implications that, perhaps Mamdani could be, a victim of something here, like it talks about the rulers and the very important persons, and so perhaps there is some ruling class conspiracy to keep the mad
Sure.
socialist out of
Not
office.
perhaps, it's underway. I mean, I think that that actually tracks, right? So if
Will
you're
they
saying, sorry,
succeed? Will they succeed? That's the
yeah,
question.
we'll know. We think they won't, and we'll tell you
Right.
why. We'll tell you why we think they won't. But we know that like the transits that Alex just talked about are very much a part of like Mamdani's experience right now, because in fact, for the last 4 weeks, he's just encountered like incredible pressure and bullying. Well, I mean, I guess I wouldn't call it bullying necessarily, but he's definitely encountered a lot of I mean, just an untold amount of like billionaire money to try to stop him from becoming the mayor of New York City.
Yeah, yeah, he's become the talk of the town.
No, the
Now,
world. I mean, he's become the
yeah.
talk of the world, right?
Well, so the thing is that I ultimately though with all of these transits, like I've been mentioning, it's important to see which transit is the most important one, and you do that by looking at dashas or some other time lord system to see which planet is the most active. And for Cuomo right now, that's Mercury. And that's going to be the planet that's going to be, he's going to feel the transits of that planet more than any of the others. And the result that is given for this transit reads here: the native may have to go into exiled, transferred to unwanted places. So, uh, yeah, he suffers humiliation and impediments. Nothing comes to pass what the native wishes. So, this is going to be the most important transit for Cuomo. Now, he has done well under this transit before, but I think that it's not going to be the case here, especially because he's now got Mercury active.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean,
I mean, he
overall,
is going to suffer a humiliation for sure when he loses tonight.
oh yes,
I mean,
yes,
look,
he
polls
will.
close in 16 minutes, and we have no idea like how quickly these votes are going to be counted, but we know there are going to be a lot of votes coming in. So we have no idea like how soon it will be called. Normally, it would take like a week for every vote to be counted if like if it's a close race. But if it actually is a blowout, which we actually don't think it's going to be a blowout, I think we've agreed on that. You know, but if the math starts like not mathing for Cuomo, it could be called as soon as 10 o'clock.
Right.
So we may know by the time the stream ends.
Yeah, that would
And
be
in
interesting.
which case it'll be very humiliating for Cuomo because he will have to like give a concession speech and whatever else he has to do. And of course, he's also beholden to like these billionaires who have really kind of bet big on him. Like they've really thrown everything at the wall. They've thrown everything at the wall, and they're hoping that something sticks. And like it
Yes.
just hasn't
Yeah.
worked.
And
You know.
Cuomo has got a lot of attention, right? And he's got a lot going. He's got, Saturn is here making a square to his natal Saturn. Jupiter is here. Jupiter's here making a square to his natal Jupiter. So he's having this culminating point, right? I looked at their progressions and other timing techniques, and overall, it seems like Cuomo is at a peak, right? And whereas Mamdani is still on the rise, right? Mamdani's gets more activations in the next few years, whereas Cuomo, it seems like this is the peak and it falls off. And so to me, that tells the story of, Cuomo's this disgraced politician that had to resign, and this is as close to a comeback as he can get. This is his redemption story, right? Is this failed run for mayor, right? And he gets all this support, and people, he's got people backing him, and he's got these transits, but because he's at the peak of the power right now, I don't think it's going to last. And
Oh,
I
no.
think it's actually going to be Mamdani that carries through because in the next couple of years, his chart is going to get activated in some big ways. And I don't think he's a figure that's going away anytime soon. Whereas Cuomo, when you look in the future for him, it looks like he's kind of fading out. So
He did say he was
ultimately,
going to have to move to Florida.
hmm, he
He
did.
actually, yeah, he said that today because he was like, I have to move to Florida, or if I don't win, I'm going to have to move to Florida. And I think he kind of sees the writing on the wall. I don't really, I mean, I think maybe it could have been like a brutal sort of moment of honesty for him. Maybe he had like a moment of true self reflection and then, subconsciously like blurted the truth and said he had to move to Florida because he is definitely Trump's man in this race. It's important that people who are listening actually have like the correct context for like the setup of this race. Zoran Mamdani, quote unquote, the communist, right? That
I'm sorry, Fred, to interrupt you, but we're getting messages from the chat that your audio is clicking. It is kind of clicking. Can you hold the microphone differently?
can you hear me better?
I think so, yeah.
Is it better?
Keep talking.
Okay, I'm gonna keep talking.
Oh, wait.
Is it better now? It has to be better.
Yeah,
Audience,
that's
what
better.
say you? Is it clicking?
It's like you're moving the phone around or something,
I'm
right?
not moving my phone around,
Oh,
but
it
I
does
also
make
don't
sense
have
when you
like a
talk.
podcast mic, and I'm not sitting in an Eames chair. I'm like holding an iPhone SE
Mm,
to my face. Can you hear me? Like I think it's stabilized a little bit.
yeah, I can hear you
Yeah.
better now.
So yeah, what I was saying is that I think it's important for like listeners to have like the context for like this race. Like Mamdani, Zoran Mamdani, the communist, the alleged communist, is actually the candidate for the Democratic Party. Cuomo is running as an independent. He's not running as a Democrat. Mamdani has the full backing of the entire Democratic rank and file, from the governor of the state, Kathy Hochul, who is just a notorious sort of like centrist liberal, to Barack Obama, who called him a couple of days ago and gave him a pep talk and said, "I love what you're doing." Right. So this person, this so-called communist, right? The billionaires are asserting that he's a communist, across like television ads that are blanketing the state right now, has the full like support of like rank and file Democrats all the way to the very top. So all of the apex predators of the Democratic Party are backing Mamdani, who is running
Yeah,
on the Democratic Party line.
Mamdani has billionaires backing him as well.
Sure, yeah, sure he does. But Cuomo, is essentially like Trump's man in this race. And I actually, I mean, putting my political hat on for a second, I mean, I had said months ago that like Cuomo entering the race is really just to do the bidding of the Trump administration. And that was like the quid pro quo, that he would have this opportunity to make a comeback, and in exchange for that he would get all of the support of those like Trump backed billionaires, and then if he wins he would comply with Trump's agenda. And we know what that agenda is, which is to basically send in large numbers of ICE agents to do mass deportations in the city, because again, New York City is home to 1 million immigrants.
Here we've
This is a
got
jewel in the crown. It's not Los Angeles. New York City is a jewel in the crown. And without like the compliance of the mayor, who controls like the New York City Police Department, it's going to be very difficult for, the National Guard or Trump's ICE agents to, effectively do deportations without it devolving into actual plain sight kidnappings, which they already did. They did that trial balloon a couple of weeks ago, and that made headlines. And so this is sort of why this is like such an insane like race. Like Mamdani is not a communist. He is like the Democratic candidate for like mayor of New York. People need to understand this. Like this is who the Democrats have chosen. This is Nancy Pelosi's cousin. He's calling Nancy Pelosi Auntie Nancy. I mean, this is where we're at. And Cuomo, who was once like the star of the Democratic Party, who fell from, his perch in just a spectacular fall from grace, is now probably going to have to like move into Mar-a-Lago after he loses tonight. And it's all laid out in his chart, as you just pointed out.
Yeah, and we've got a comment here from Hope. Hey, Hope. Sun conjunct Saturn. I've also seen that as public humiliation. Cuomo has Sun conjunct Saturn. Someone else has made a comment I find interesting. Um, they say Trump's costing him the election, basically, by saying this. Also, Fred, the clicks are still there. Is there anything you can do
I'm
with
signing off
that?
and I'm coming back. Everybody bear with me. I'm coming back.
Okay, hi guys. Thanks for commenting. Glad to see all you guys here. So yeah, basically, I think that I was leaning Mamdani at this point in my analysis, going through things, but there's something else that really clinched it for me, which I'll get into. Okay, so this is something called Tarabalam, right? This is a kind of daily timing technique you can use.
But it definitely
Are
still
you
sounds
back?
like it's working.
All right, keep talking.
Okay, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, are we going into the Tarabalams now? Great.
I was says I was saying that's basically the I was leaning Mamdani at this point, and so I decided to check this, and I was going to explain what the Tarabalams are. Unless you want to say anything more, I think we can go. We're going to have more time to talk about this. Here, let's just talk about the Taras. So, the Taras, basically, you count the nakshatras in between where the moon is on a certain day and your natal moon. Very simple, right? You get 1 through 9 as a result, right? Essentially, odd numbers are bad, even numbers are good. Some are better than others. 6 is considered the best, and 7 is considered one of the worst. All right, so basically 6 is like completion, fulfillment of your dreams, everything going your way. 7 is like distances, separations, setbacks, death, defeat, all of that. And on the election day, Mamdani has a 6 Tara, the best Tara. Cuomo has a 7, which is not good. Now, what's interesting is that during the early voting, Cuomo had a 6 Tara when the early voting started, which is the best one, and Mamdani had a 5 Tara, which is not so good. And Cuomo did have a big turnout early on with the early voting, but now as we've gotten closer to the elections, it's shifted to be more like Mamdani, and I really think that this technique can show you if it's coming down to a close consideration. This is like tipping the scale one way or the other. And I went back and also checked all of the elections going back to 1993 and for the New York City mayor using this technique, and it was correct. It called the correct mayor all but one of those times. So the Tarabalam seems to give it to Mamdani, and that's why, right? We've got all of the indications that not just that Mamdani is entering a new era and is rising, whereas Cuomo is on the decline, but the fact of just like who's luckier on the day, according to this Tara technique, it's going to be Mamdani. What do you think, Fred? Fred, are you there? We cannot hear you. If you are saying anything, we cannot hear you. Well, okay. That's unfortunate, these technical difficulties. But I'm hoping this makes sense to everyone. Here, she's back. Are you there? Well, Apologies, everyone. Anyway, I will just try to carry on. Basically, this technique is great, and you can use it for lots of different things, right? You can plan your day. You can see when a day is going to be good or bad. It also doesn't matter if you use sidereal or tropical zodiac. It's just about the degrees of separation from the natal moon and the transit moon.
Back.
Okay, finally you're back.
I'm back. Where were we? You went over the Tarabalans, right?
Yes, I went over the Tara Balams and explained that essentially these are like 9 different aspects the moon can make. It's about how many nakshatras are in between your
Yeah.
birth moon and the transit moon for any given day. And this can tell you whether you're going to be lucky or unlucky on that
Yeah.
day and like whether the energy is going to be flowing with you or against you. And the energy is flowing with Mamdani
Today.
on today, and it's
Today.
flowing against Cuomo.
Yeah. But during early voting, which happened on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, by the Saturday, there were, numerous like media reports indicating that voters over the age of like older voters, basically 59 to like 67, were coming out in large numbers. And those voters are the voters who favor Cuomo. And I think it's interesting that Cuomo had a Tara of 6 during that time. I think is that correct? It was like maybe Friday or Saturday that he had that Tara, which is like
Yes,
Tara.
yes, it was during the first day of early voting. He
Yeah,
had
so
that.
during the first day of early voting, huge numbers of like older, essentially boomers came out, and then also Gen X voters. That was sort of the like voter breakdown information that they basically released, and then by Saturday afternoon there were reports coming out that this was favoring Cuomo, and
Your audio is still uh,
is
glitching
it better
out.
now?
No, it's worse.
This is terrible. Hear me now?
No, it's all crackly. You
I
got to
wonder why
close
this
out
is
everything else on your phone.
close some apps on my phone.
Yeah, close out everything else.
All right, I'll close some stuff out. I'll be back, guys. You keep talking.
Okay, so all right. By the way, if you want to know more about this technique, there's a thread that at Yoter Astrology. You can see his on the watermark here. You can go search Tara Balam on his profile on Twitter, and you can find a technique about a tutorial about how to apply this technique. But yeah, let's go. So I went back and looked at all the previous races, right? So we can see here. So basically, even numbers are good, odd numbers are bad. Nines can sometimes be really good, sometimes they can be really bad. Ones are typically not good, but can be under certain circumstances. But we see that the Tarabalam technique does seem to predict most of these. All right, so now I'll read, like 6. That reads as like perfection, completion, winning. Right. 3 is a struggle, right? Uphill struggle. Um, here the winner had a 3, which is an uphill struggle. So 3 can sometimes give success, but only after effort. A 5, though, is obstacles, being frustrated, blocked, defeated. But essentially, this technique has a good track record. And when you combine it with looking at the transits and the other timing techniques with the charts, that's why I felt confident calling it for Mamdani. Yeah, want to just exit out of this and hopefully,
Okay.
you've returned.
I have returned. Does it work?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, polls have closed. It's 9:01 p.m. and polls have closed. So we're on to the next segment. Apologies to everybody who's
Yes.
tuning in for these technical difficulties, but remember, Mercury is about to station retrograde, and this is going to be one for the history books. So
Yes, yes. And Mercury is also crossing Pluto in declination today, which has been in the past associated with infrastructure failures, communication failures, transportation failures. And so, things are wonky in the sky. I don't know.
Sure.
Do you think that could affect the voting counting and any of that? Do you think there could be any irregularities?
I mean, we won't. I mean, I guess we'll know. We'll find out. We'll find out within the next hour. But I think that like what you just said about Mercury crossing Pluto in the sky and sort of the explanation of like what those expressions could like look like, it played out just about an hour ago when a UPS plane like took off from an airport in Kentucky and exploded in midair. I mean, these are the types of things that can happen when you have like such charged astrology. It's not, I mean, it's not just like Mercury crossing Pluto, it's also like Mars in Sagittarius today, entering Sagittarius today and immediately opposing Uranus and Gemini, both at 0 degrees. So there's just like a lot of like wild astrology happening, lots of like wild astrology happening. But how does that impact like vote counting? I don't know. I don't know that it does. I mean, I guess anything is possible. We don't, I mean, I'm sure they you know, could they hack the machines? I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, maybe
Well,
we'll find out in 45 minutes that,
yeah. In terms of other kind of behind the scenes or, unseen activity, we could talk about this, which is the possibility and Curtis Sliwa kind of colluding. We've we
yeah,
may have some
do we have to
speculation on
say
this
colluding or do we
because
have to say collaborating? Conspiring?
conspiring,
Yeah.
colluding, collaborating, something like this. Because, basically over the last period of time, it's become clear that Sliwa is taking away more votes from Cuomo than he is Mamdani. And
Yeah.
Cuomo has been, begging him to drop out, commanding he drop out, trying to shame him into dropping out, all of this stuff. Clearly, Cuomo is very worried that Sliwa is still in the race. And so, like you mentioned earlier in the show, Fred, that perhaps, Sliwa would have been offered lots of money to drop out, but he hasn't taken it. And why might
No.
that be? And one possible speculation for why Sliwa hasn't dropped out is that perhaps him and Mamdani have come up with some kind of arrangement, right? Perhaps in exchange for staying in the race and drawing votes away from Cuomo, Sliwa will get some kind of position of authority or importance in the administration. What do you think of that?
Well, again, I would not speculate that this is actually happening because I wouldn't want to sort of accuse like either of those people of like sort of backdoor dealings. But I think anything is possible. I mean, we know that like many public entreaties have been made to Sliwa from the conservative, from the right flank, right, to drop out so that like Cuomo can take this race. And that hasn't worked. We can also speculate that it's likely that he's been offered enormous sums of money, which he's obviously also turned down because we saw that Eric Adams did not turn that down. Eric Adams did drop out. Eric Adams is the current mayor of New York City who was in the race until about a month ago when he decided to drop out, right? His votes went to Cuomo. So, yeah, I can't speculate. I
Well,
wouldn't
you
necessarily
may
speculate.
not feel comfortable speculating on that, and I understand that's
I,
reasonable not to want
yeah,
to speculate too much. But I am willing to speculate, and if I were to speculate about them potentially making some kind of agreement, I'd look at their composite chart, right? So a composite chart is basically a chart for a relationship. You take the
my
points
favorite
of
chart.
yeah, the composite chart is great. We love the composite chart. You take the two charts and then you do a bunch of math where you find the midway point between those planets in the two charts. All right. So basically, it's a combined chart, and it shows when this chart gets activated, it shows events that affect both people in the relationship. And all right. So what do we see here in this chart? Well, the transit Jupiter, so where Jupiter is now, is conjunct their composite Jupiter. That's interesting. Also, their composite Jupiter is conjunct the South Node, which is a lot of times, people talk about that being like, past life connections or like, links that are easy to forge. Um, they also have Mercury down here stationing retrograde on Neptune, which is associated with secrets and lies and deceptions, hidden things, things that are not immediately clear, right? And then we also have Saturn here making a trine to the composite Jupiter. Um, and so um, there's lots of things going on here with this chart that, if you gave me this chart and was like, what is going on in these two people's lives right now, I would say that they're probably getting along, right? And they may be working on something together, maybe something creative or something that they're having to keep secret. And so, yeah, the composite chart, it does not dispute the fact that Mamdani and Sliwa could be working together. Um, Hello, can you hear me? Uh, yeah, this has been um, kind of cursed with the technical problems. Sorry, guys. All right, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm not predicting that they are doing this, but if when Mamdani wins, there is some kind of office that is given to him, uh, given to Sliwa, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised at all. Maybe Mamdani puts him in charge of the police force or something like that. It could be any number of things. Okay, Fred, are you with us?
I am with you. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I just wanted to give a quick report that as of 20 minutes ago, the New York City that that New York that New York voters or the New York vote count has officially hit 2 million votes, which is what I had predicted to you would happen. And they
Yes.
are basically confirming that they've hit 2 million votes, and this is the first time since 1969. Polls are open until 9 p.m. We now know it's 9:09, but if you're in line by 9 p.m., you'll still be allowed to vote. So I'm expecting that there are probably still around 200,000 people in line. So it'll probably be around 2 million, 2.2 million votes, which is what I.
Hmm. You've cut out. We can't hear you any longer. You you really need to stop selecting things on your phone. Yeah, you've cut out. Um, I'm gonna boot you so you can rejoin. Okay. All right. Okay. Is she is she back? All right. Well, um, looks like I need to get it looks like maybe the billionaires are after us, right? They don't want us to do the stream. They don't want us to tell the truth about Mamdani, but I mean, I don't know. Uh, we'll see. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's just about the astrology for me personally. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know why you guys can't. Did you hear what I the number of votes in 2 million?
I heard that you said that was 2 million votes. It's the highest since 1969, and then after that, you cut out.
Okay, hopefully I won't cut out again, but if I do, we can blame it on Mercury being out of bounds and crossing Pluto. That's what we're going to have to do. And those who are listening are just going to have to suck it up. Um,
Right.
yeah, voting has, the polls have closed, and, I think we'll probably exceed 2 million votes, probably something like 2.2 million votes, which is great. It should be 8 million votes.
It's a lot of votes. Most votes since 1969. That's interesting.
It's good. It's good.
So, is there
Yeah.
any part of this that you want to go back and talk about more? Should we open this up for some callers? Um,
We
what do
could,
you
or we could sort of talk about the general sort of, we could talk about, I don't know. I mean, we could talk about anything really. We've been on for an hour and 11 minutes, and it's been beset with like technical difficulties that have been
I
going.
know.
But
Yeah.
it's going great. I'm assuming that the listeners are totally locked in. I can't imagine they wouldn't be. So
Well,
we could talk about anything. We could take callers.
yeah, I'll post the link and see if anyone wants to join.
I just wonder if
Um,
like taking callers would make it even more wonky because who
it
knows?
may. It
Well,
may.
we'll see. It may.
We'll see if anyone joins.
I can't believe you're smoking on stream. I would like to have a cigarette. I love cigarettes. For anyone listening, cigarettes are amazing.
Yeah, they are really good.
I'm wondering if I like want to go to the party or not still, because I feel like I might have FOMO, but I'm also like resigned to the fact that I would have to like make my way to the party instead of being comfortable in my own home and just like yapping.
Well, I don't know.
So
I
that's
don't. If it's not over tonight, if there's no real victory, then it's probably not worth going. Um,
well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, will I have FOMO like when it's called at like 10:15 and then I'm like just like a pile in my own apartment? You know, like that's the question that I've been really kind of contending with for the better part of the last 45 minutes. The fear of missing out. I actually don't really have FOMO though. I'm just sort of like, you know, yapping.
but yeah, basically,
No one wants to call in.
I posted it. We'll see if anyone calls in. But the top line message is that Mamdani seems to be a rising star, and I think that we'll see a lot more from him in the next couple of years. Versus Cuomo is already peaked, already past his peak. This is like a kind of his chart is having activations of completion, wrapping up of a cycle. And that's not something you want to see at the beginning of taking a political office, right? That basically means it's over as soon as you begin. And so I just don't see Cuomo winning. Um, yeah, he he just I just don't think he can win. And but the thing is, the betting markets have been saying Mamdani's going to win. But then you were telling me earlier, Fred, that there's numbers that are being exchanged, like each side, uh, thinks that the increased turnout is going to favor them. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, look, there have been like polls that we've, those of us who like work in the business have seen, and it's never been clear to me, based on the modeling, right? Like based on the poll numbers, like like what the margin of victory or loss would be. And obviously, when you throw in this dimension of like actually using astrology, which we're both doing now, it's made like kind of me coming to like a conclusion around like what the outcome will be, like even more muddled. But I, obviously like would not have agreed to do this stream with Alex if I didn't also agree that the timing techniques that we've applied so far really favor Mamdani. And then, when I go back to just the mathematical modeling that I've seen in the polls that have crossed my desk, it really just straightforwardly says it all kind of depends on turnout. And both sides think that like turnout will favor them, but none of it is, clear until you start like looking like neighborhood by neighborhood. And there have been, really great pundits and sort of thoughtful political operatives who like basically provided their analysis and their predictions. And I think that I have to agree with like a very like smart political operative who wrote a very like well informed and thoughtful like Substack breaking down the wins for each of the candidates and in each neighborhood. So Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, you know, Mamdani is like plus 10. So the conventional, I think that the conventional wisdom here is if you look at like these polls, it'll be plus 10 for Mamdani. Although I'm not sure that that'll be the case. My own prediction based on modeling and expertise is that it will be somewhere between +5 and +6. The margin of error is +4 or +3. A blowout would be +10. So I think it's somewhere in between, favoring Mamdani.
Yeah, I think it will be a, not a blowout, but a decisive victory for Mamdani.
Yeah, if it's +6 or +8, 6 to 8 is decisive and extremely humiliating. If it's within the margin of error, then Cuomo, God knows what they're going to do. Like they're going to call for a recount. If it's close, it'll be a disaster because like the billionaire, like the billionaire juggernaut will fund it to the teeth and like press for a recount. So that's also possible. Like even if it shows that he has won, if it's like within like 2 to 3 points, they might press for a recount. Who knows? They might cry foul. So it would have to be a decisive victory, and a decisive victory would have to be like +5 or above. But right now, like these really kind of astute like analysts are like looking block by block and examining each of the voter universes in each of the neighborhoods and saying it'll be +10. I don't believe that though. So I think there are a lot of voters who are very reliable voters who are not like buying into any of these like weird like tropes that are being used against Mamdani, whatever those tropes are, that he is somehow a part of Hamas, or that he's like trying to Islamicize. I mean, people are buying that, but they
You are cutting out pretty badly. You are cutting out pretty
are
badly, Fred.
they're
Glitching. Okay. So going back to the astrology, while she has left us, um, yeah, I wanted to point out about how this full moon that's happening here. So I mentioned before that this full moon is activating Cuomo's Mars and Rahu and midheaven, which is an area of the chart that we said was associated with his, scandals and failures and stuff. This full moon is going to be pretty close to Mamdani's Pluto, and Pluto is here on his descendant. And so I see this as Mamdani being this plutonic figure, and he is driving out all of these people that wouldn't ordinarily vote. That's why we have all of these people. They're all voting. They wouldn't ordinarily vote. It's the Pluto, the underworld rising up. All of these people that are normally unseen, don't have anything about them considered. They're coming out in droves to vote for him because Pluto is activating his chart, and his natal Pluto is being activated as well. And so, Mamdani is kind of this Pluto in Aquarius figure, right? He's this figurehead that people are rallying around, as part of this Pluto in Aquarius uprising, because Pluto in Aquarius is associated with this kind of revolutionary spirit, trying to throw off the old guard, and Mamdani's clearly trying to channel that, right? Remember, Pluto in Aquarius is when we had the American Revolution and the French Revolution, and so I think that Mamdani will be a figure we will hear from more of as Pluto transits through Aquarius. And Fred, I have just set you up beautifully to go on and tell us about how Mamdani is a personification of the Pluto and Aquarius archetype.
I think missed most of it because I had to like drop out again. Can you guys hear me? Like I would hate to have the audience.
We can hear you. We can hear you. And they
but
are.
When does it start glitching though? Like, is it because I'm just like yapping and then it starts to glitch, or like what is going on?
I don't know what it is you're doing that's making it do that.
I modulate this.
Now it's starting to do it again.
It's very normal on my end. Like everything is fine. I dropped out.
Well, it's
for a second.
Now you're back.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about Pluto and Aquarius? Are we talking about Mamdani?
I'm talking about how Mamdani is like a archetype, like a manifestation of the Pluto and Aquarius archetype of this spirit of rebellion and revolution and the people and all of that, like the French Revolution and etc.
Right.
I gave them a great intro that you did not hear.
I got a text message saying that the current count is Mamdani is leading 59.1% to like 31%. So
Yeah, I had that
The-
up on the
the-
screen earlier.
these early numbers are coming in and they're favoring Mamdani, but it's it's hard to say if it's going to be called at 10:30 or if it's going to be called at like midnight. I think based on these early numbers, it's going to be called before. It'll be called tonight. I don't think it'll stretch into like the week, so that's exciting. Um, what can I say about Pluto and Aquarius? Pluto has been in Aquarius since August. Oh no, Pluto's been out of bounds since August. My brain is like a little bit fried. I have to look at my notes here. Mamdani 51.9%, Cuomo 39%. I'm just getting like real time updates, so bear with me if I'm pinballing a little bit because I do have ADHD. So I'm just gonna pull up my notes. Let's see. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So this is what we're dealing with. Like Pluto is in Aquarius for 20 years. And it is in the next 20 years, we're going to see a lot of transformation, Plutonian transformation, right?
Yes.
And yeah, so that's what we're going to experience for these next 20 years. Like we're going to see like radical Plutonian transformation across the board. And I think the archetype of Aquarius,
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
right? Oh no, can you not hear me again?
You started to go out again.
Can you hear me again?
Yes, I can hear you again now.
Okay, sorry. I just have to speak into the phone. Um, what did you hear and what did you not hear?
We
Pluto
heard
being in
everything
Aquarius.
except for the last couple of words.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, I mean, I think what a lot of what is like driving like this huge turnout for Mamdani is the Aquarian signature. It is like the people, like
Yes.
the Aquarian archetype representing like the collective, the body politic, the people. They're really coming out to vote. Like that is like what we're experiencing here, and I think that's like pretty remarkable. And I think that like it'll continue to play out over the next 20 years. I mean, Alex and I have had like really thoughtful discussions sort of offline about like what this is going to like look like. And if you stay with us over the coming weeks, and hopefully I'll have updated my technology, we'll dig a little bit deeper and talk a little bit more about what this transit has in store, what this like long-term transit has in store for the collective, because it is very, very interesting and there's a lot to like reference, because when you go back in history you can really find really interesting
Yes.
corollaries, because it does take Pluto
Yes.
250 years to orbit the sun. So when you go back
Yes.
250 years you can see some real parallels to like what's happening now to what happened then. And
So,
yeah.
yeah. So to help illustrate this, I've got a graphic of Pluto's orbit up on the screen. So we see here, this line here is Pluto. Now, you see how it's at a different tilt along the y-axis than all the other planets. All the other planets are more or less arranged along the same dimension, but here Pluto is tilted like this. All right, so this is what causes the extreme declination shifts for Pluto, right? And this is what they refer to as out of bounds, right? And so these happen because of Pluto's elliptical orbit. And so when Pluto is in Leo, it goes out of bounds to the north of the sun, right? And so this is when tyrants rise up and empires expand. We see this, it most recently took place during World War II and the rise of the Soviet Union and all of this. Uh, it also takes place other times, going all the way back to Alexander the Great. We see the rise of empires with Pluto in Leo, and then when Pluto is in Aquarius, we see this kind of revolutionary spirit. Most recently, it was uh, the Revolutionary War in America and the French Revolution. Right? And so it's because of the way Pluto orbits the sun that it goes out of bounds in these signs. Now, something that's interesting that's happening is that Pluto's orbit is decaying, right? And so it's changing, right? And so it's not going to be as tilted as it is in this graphic. And by the time Pluto gets back around to be in Aquarius next time in another 250 years, it won't be out of bounds, right? It won't be as severe of a tilt, right? And so what that means is that, with this kind of push and pull and tug of like, the tyrants come up on the top and then the people rebel against them. This is a pattern that's been playing out for millennia, right? With Pluto in Leo on the one hand with the tyrants and Pluto in Aquarius on the other hand with the people rising up. And the thing is that this time is the last time. It's not going to happen again. For thousands of years, Pluto's not going to go out of bounds in Leo or Aquarius. So that means whoever comes out on top comes out on
You said
top.
we weren't going to talk about this.
Well, you have been dropping out so much that I've run out of things to say.
That's not true. That simply cannot be true. Are people following
Now
along?
you sound really good.
Oh, that's because I signed off and then I had a bite of Rice Krispie treat and now I'm back. And I had a swig of water. So, okay, listeners, where are we? Are we still talking about Pluto and Aquarius?
Yeah, I've been talking about the Pluto and Aquarius, Pluto and Leo declination cycle of tyrants and uprisings.
Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's actually give the people, some hard data. Like, let's actually talk a little bit about like what happened when Pluto was last in Leo. Right?
Right.
So let's
Yes,
talk
that
about
was,
so that would have been 1938 to 1953. That was when Pluto was last in Leo, and
we
that
had
was
World War
period.
II, we had the Soviet Union.
Yeah, we had it was a rise of authoritarian regimes. Like all the power was like concentrated in the hands of a few kings, tyrants, fascists, demagogues. Right? Hitler was born in Germany, Benito Mussolini in Italy, Francisco Franco in Spain, Emperor Hirohito in Japan. These were all like demagogues and authoritarians who dominated, who crushed their opposition, who demanded obedience, who basically like imprisoned dissenters, exiled them or killed them, right? And so if you look in contrast to Pluto's out of bounds um, movement to the south in Aquarius as it is now, that same energy would disperse, hopefully, into transforming the collective, the communities, right? It'll hopefully enable like the will of the people to organize, to act collectively, and to challenge the status quo. Will it do that? Only time will tell. It feels like it's happening right now because we're certainly seeing a lot of like if we're going by like the sheer numbers of people who are coming out to vote for Mamdani, that's like a signature of Pluto being out of bounds in Aquarius to the south. If we're looking at like the No Kings protests, if we're looking at like the protests that are like erupting all over the world, and in some cases immediately toppling governments, that would be a signature of Pluto being out of bounds in Aquarius to the south. Will that hold? I don't know. I mean, I think that goes back to what Alex was just talking about before I like dropped off again. We don't know. Like whoever comes out on top, will basically be in charge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one's for all the marbles, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if you've already gone there, if you've already gone there and sort of like given that explanation of like where we're headed, I think it is like either the plutocrats win and they ground us down. We're like mortar. We're like people in like the gigantic mortar and pestle, and we're just ground the fuck down. Or we rebuild and transform society and the world. I mean, I'd
Right.
like to be optimistic, and I'd like to believe that the signature of Pluto and Aquarius will bring about like the latter rather than being ground down in a mortar and pestle. I don't want to do
Well, I
that.
guess that's the question then, is that, is Mamdani for real? Is he a real archetype, this Plutonian archetype representing the will of the people, or is he not? Is he kind of, more of, the same, just kind of saying different things. I mean, that's
But
always the
like
question
that's
within
a question
politicians.
of like structural power and whether or not like he's going to be able to challenge like structural power, because it's like more of the same. What does that even really mean? Like he could, he will control the cops, sure, but like at some point he's going to have to be like pragmatic. So this is the thing about like politics, is that like pragmatism does play a big part in politics. It does. And
Yes.
so let's envision a scenario where, Mamdani becomes the next mayor, and like he is now effectively the boss of the cops, the NYPD, the boys in blue. Like, is he going to be able to tell them to stand down in the face of like, the hundreds of thousands of ICE agents that are being hired into the federal government and then systematically dispatched into cities to basically do Trump's bidding of like deporting like migrants and people of color? Like, I don't know if like he's actually going to be able to like control the crowd. So then it becomes a question of crowd control, because the police are going to have to do something. They're not going to, you know, like then it just becomes like melee chaos.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in that case, I mean, if there is going to be, I mean, a lot of astrologers, including S.J. Anderson, Dan Waits, other people, have been talking about, civil war type vibes coming for the United States soon, and we're seeing more and more this tension between different levels of the United States government, like the federal government and the state and local governments. And Mamdani does seem like a foil for Trump, right? They both have, the popular support of people that aren't normally engaged in the political process, right? They both are people that appear to be able to bring people out from the shadows, people that aren't normally engaged. They'll come out to support these people. And that's what Mamdani and Trump have in common. And in many ways, Mamdani's like this foil for Trump. And I don't know if there was going to be a showdown between the federal government and the local government for the control of a city. I mean, Mamdani versus Trump would be an exciting matchup. I mean, that seems appropriate, right? I mean, who else would it be? I mean, I guess there's other candidates, but Mamdani could be a lightning rod if he gets elected and become this
Sure.
symbolic thing that the ire of there's this reactionary ire turned against him, right? As like the same thing Trump did with Obama with the whole birther stuff. Oh, he's not really American. Um, which here in this case, Mamdani is not born in America. But uh, he's not running for president. He's running for mayor. You don't have to be born here to run for mayor. So, but Trump could launch some kind of similar smear campaign, right?
Well, that smear
Yeah.
campaign has been in effect for like the past month now. I mean, like it's been nonstop, like just accusations of him, being a Hamas, and I mean, it's just been insane. It's actually just like random disinformation that is like really kind of stupid, and I think that like most sane people aren't really buying it. But what that does is like it sort of does drum up like rage and like anger and fear in the hearts of people who don't live in New York, right? Like they are like, oh my God, like if New York falls, like America becomes like Islam. I mean, these are people who are like in Indiana where you are, or they are in like, you know, Ohio or wherever. They're certainly not in New York City because like, we'll see that when Mamdani wins tonight, like that's the referendum. Like New Yorkers are voting for Mamdani. And to your point about, you know, like, the square off between Mamdani and Trump, yes, that's true. He's the lightning rod, but it's the people of New York who have the power. And it's also the city of New York that has the power. New York is, it's a vortex. It is. We've talked about this. It's a very powerful place to like be and to live. It's a very magical place. And so Trump knows this. He's furious. I mean, the reason why he's so angry all the time is because he is a New Yorker. He was born in Queens. He was raised in Queens. And then he had to leave the city in shame and break for Mar-a-Lago, which has been his home base. And I think he still is really kind of smarting from that like rejection and from having been exiled from this incredibly magical city that gave him so much power and energy. Like Trump has never been like, I'm a Floridian. Trump is a born and raised New Yorker. I'm not even from New York. I've lived here for 20 plus years, going on 30 years now, but I'm not a native New Yorker. Trump is. And he knows, like, this city made him, this city gave him power, and he's exiled and he wants it back. That's why he's like expending so much energy. And not least because it is like great optics for like implementing their weird like technocratic agenda, their Plutonian agenda, if you will, right? Like they want to be able to come in large numbers and like deport like people, because you come to the city and it is an incredibly multicultural city. This is not an excerpt of like Memphis. This is not like, Orange County. You go into any neighborhood in New York City and it is just incredibly diverse and multicultural. This is who we are. And they want to come in and create like weird disinformation and optics so that they can, continue to press on with their agenda through the next 3 years for as long as Trump is in office, and even beyond. So now we're kind of getting too deep in the rabbit hole of like politics. I think maybe we should switch topics and kind of get back to some of the astrology, or did we go through all of it already?
I mean, we've kind of gone through the whole presentation that we had, although because that was so stop start, you know, I don't know. We could just run through the whole thing again.
And
I
the
don't know.
interesting thing, let's go back. Let's actually go back to Cuomo's chart where we see that he is a sex freak, and like let's actually kind of go back there. Really found that so like enlightening when you pointed that out to me the other night. Yeah, because remember when I sent you the screenshot of Carrie Kennedy having to hide in her bathroom? So for context, for people who are just like listening in or who are just joining, Carrie Kennedy was married to Andrew Cuomo. She is the mother of his children. They were happily married for some number of years, and then she divorced him, and citing emotional torture and emotional abuse. So this screenshot sort of came to me in my news feed right as Alex had mentioned the night before when we were kind of prepping for this, that he had this sort of strange aspect in his chart where Mars and Rahu are conjunct in the 11th house.
Yes, in the 11th house, and it's also in the sixth sign from the moon, which is also a further affliction. It basically is just it is going to corrupt his sexuality and how he deals with other people. It's going to just be this kind of insatiable appetite and prone to perversions and things like that. Uh, when Mars and Rahu are together in either the third, seventh, or 11th, it can give this, especially if it's not favorably lined up with the moon.
Yeah. Oh, Mamdani wins. I think they've already called it. Just like I
Have
said.
they called it?
Yeah, I think
Have they called it? Let's look.
9:39. Like I said, they were going to call. Remember, I told you earlier it was going to be called by 9:30. Do I need to
Yeah,
go to
you
the
did
party?
say
Do I need to
that.
jump off the stream? I might have to go, you guys, because I might have FOMO and I might have to go to the party. Instead, I have to like look and see. Yeah, he's won.
Yeah. I've got it
It's
up
done.
here. I'm gonna pull it over here.
It's done. I said it would be called by 9:30 for those who are listening, and I was expressing to Alex earlier that I was like having FOMO, potentially like not being at the party, and instead like doing this like stream. And I said, well, maybe if it gets called at 9:30, which I think it will be called by 9:30, I can just like jump off the stream and immediately put some clothes on and get in an Uber and go to the party. And now the question is, do I leave all of you and go to the party, or do I stay here and yap for a little while longer? Do I have FOMO? Is it normal to have FOMO? I don't really have FOMO. Stay on. Because it's going to take me at least 35 minutes to get there. So I won't even get there till 10. And I've already missed like the joyous screams of like excitement, because I'm sure people are like, hugging and cheering each other on. This is great for the city, you guys. Now we should probably jump into what happens next.
Right. Yeah. So what does this mean? What do you think all this means?
I mean, it's a blowout, like if they've called it this early, then that means, and I'm just going to like I'm going to just go by the mathematical modeling and not use the astrological timing techniques, and suggest that like it'll probably be between 6 to 8, like plus 6 to 8 points. I don't think it'll be plus 10. So there's no real world scenario where, um, Cuomo can call foul and ask for a recount. It's done. It's locked in. He's going to have to give a concession speech in the next 20 minutes. He's going to have to call Mamdani to congratulate him. Eric Adams, who's like the current sitting mayor, also disgraced, is going to have to call Mamdani to congratulate him. And then I would say that, in the next couple of days, we'll get the final tally. Mamdani will go on television. There'll be lots of congratulations. It'll be really, a great like boost for the Democratic Party. Because again, I want to remind everybody that Zohran Mamdani is the Democratic candidate who has just won the New York City mayoral race. So that is what will happen. He will be given many accolades. And then I think in the months that follow before he takes his seat at Gracie Mansion or in City Hall, you know, I don't know what will happen to him. I hope nothing. I hope that he's like safe. I hope that he's able to like, go home and make love to his hot wife. I mean, I'm personally really happy because they're both so attractive and it's just going to be really nice. I know this sounds like really superficial to have such a
Yeah.
like stylish couple in City Hall. Like they're a very good looking couple, you know? We haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
They're
I
uncorrupted. It's
think
not
that
even corrupted, they're
I don't
attractive.
know. I don't know as if the honeymoon is going to last, or that now that he's won, that's going to be Trump's number one target essentially, and
Oh,
so
sure.
it's and Mamdani, his chart is getting activated next year. Like these eclipses are hitting his moon and his angles, his Saturn, all of that. Like he is going to, yeah, he's gonna have a lot. I think we're gonna be hearing a lot more from him in the next couple of years, especially during these eclipses in Leo and Aquarius. There's an eclipse in August that's basically right on his moon, and that's in his seventh house. That's how he deals with the outer world. I don't know. I think that there's. I think he's going to be in the spotlight a lot, and not necessarily for good reasons, or reasons that are like, comfort. It might be dangerous for him, right?
Yeah.
These, especially with Pluto there activating that Mars Saturn square of his. I mean, that's still in play.
Yeah.
I mean, that there could be, just like sudden reversals and sudden things that he has to deal with that who knows? Like the levers of power are going to be used against him,
Sure.
right? Because, um,
But I
yeah,
mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to go after Abigail Spanberger, who basically like just like took Virginia? Are they going to go after Mikey Sherrill, who just became the governor of like New Jersey? Like, it's a bad night for MAGA. It's a bad fucking night for MAGA. Okay. So, and we
yeah,
still have California to come, and we also have like a bunch of other states. So it's like all eyes on California right now. I mean, we're not being explicitly political here, but obviously, like I am. You don't have to be, Alex, but I am because my day job is in politics. I just moonlight as an astrologer and now I guess nascent like streamer, podcaster, like whatever this is. Um, but like all eyes in California, we're still 3 hours behind. We're looking and waiting for returns on Prop 50, which I think we know is going to pass overwhelmingly. For those who are just tuning in right now, who are in California, I know many of you are in California. Prop 50 is a ballot measure that is going up for vote today, and like letting the voters of California decide whether or not the governor gets to redraw the congressional district map. And and I think that's going to overwhelmingly pass in favor of yes on Prop 50, and that means Governor Newsom gets to redraw the congressional map, which then will give 5 more seats to the Democrats, which then would allow them to take back the House. So this is, it's a
right.
bad night
Which
for
is,
MAGA.
yeah, which is going to give the Republicans going to see that they're going to then kind of, disingenuously accuse the other side of gerrymandering and
Sure,
rigging the system when it
sure.
was really the Republicans historically that expanded the gerrymandering
Right.
first, and where they kind of took it upon themselves to be activists with this gerrymandering. And now once the other side is finally catching up and using the same tactics like 50 years later, they're gonna cry about it. But of course you would. I mean, why wouldn't you do that if you were them? I mean, that's the move, right? That's the only move you've got at that point.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of like the major sort of, the MAGA generals, like they know that if they don't like win and hold on to power forever, they know what's coming. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
yeah, they
broken
know
a lot
that.
of laws. I mean, you aren't. Let's not forget that you're a lawyer by day. Like,
That's
do
true.
people know this on the stream? Like, Alex is an attorney by day, just like I do politics by day. So it's like they have broken so many laws since Trump has taken office that I don't think that, like, if a Democratic administration is in charge again, and if like a Democrat, like if they have a trifecta, it's over for these hoes. Like they're gonna go to jail for real this time. It's not going to be some Trump. I mean, this is probably a good segue into sort of our favorite astrologer on Twitter, our favorite MAGA astrologer on Twitter, who is asserting that Barack Obama is going to be the first Black person to be executed.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that too
what
far?
the hell is that?
Is that a
Like,
bridge too
yeah,
far?
what is he talking about? Like, that guy's crazy.
A lot of you guys who follow Alex already, I'm sure, are part of like a larger like community of astrologers, and so you probably already know who this person is. But I have a deep fixation with him. Um, his name is Peter Novak, and he calls himself the MAGA Christian astrologer. And I cannot tear my eyes away from the train wreck of his Twitter feed daily. He derails me and worsens my ADHD by the minute because every time he tweets something about like God or Jesus or the Star of David, I my mind unravels a little bit, and he makes like the most like just out of pocket like ideas about like astrology that are not rooted in any like ancient teaching. There are like troves of books that you can study to become an astrologer, and I don't think he's read a single one of them, and yet has managed to sort of like establish himself as like an astrologer on the right, which I think is like wild. Are you looking for his chart right now? Are you looking at his Twitter?
I was trying to pull him up. Yeah, his Twitter. But I mean, I don't have any of his insane tweets. I mean,
I
but
mean, they're
he's made,
all insane. You can pick any one of them, and they're
yeah,
like,
he's made some crazy tweets that in the past, like some crazy predictions that did not pan out. Like, he predicted that Trump was going to somehow like he was going to get arrested. This was back during the 2024 election. He was going to like be arrested and then run from prison and get elected from prison
yeah.
and all of this and this just big dramatic thing is really crazy. This guy's certainly got an imagination. But yeah, this is the person we're talking about. Yeah.
The thing about Peter Novak is that he does have a sizable following, and then he also has like some type of like astrology school, and he's like teaching like people who are paying him a fee to learn like the fundamentals of astrology from him, and then also be indoctrinated with like his sort of lunatic like ramblings. Because like if you're just starting out and you want to like learn astrology, you like learn just sort of the fundamentals, and I think he's probably got that down pat. But then beyond that, he's like really like injecting like his ideology and also frankly like lunacy into like his astrology students. And like we joke about this frequently, or at least I joke about it because I'm completely obsessed with this guy, that there should be some kind of like institution that like bars him from practicing astrology
Yeah,
because
I don't agree with you there. I'm not in favor of, licensing and regulations and stuff. I mean, it's such a hassle to keep up a law license. I can't imagine having to keep up an astrology license. I mean,
it's really
also,
hard.
there's no objective basis to say, oh, you can't do astrology this way. You can only there's so many different ways to practice it. It's just I don't know. I think any attempt to regulate it would kill the magic. But I mean, the thing that's the thing about this guy is that he claims himself that one of the things that he's most proud of is him rectifying Jesus's chart.
Correct.
Like this guy really thinks that he has found the moment Jesus Christ was born, which is I don't know. I mean, I kind of I'm interested to know what kind of drugs he's taking because they sound pretty good. I
I don't think he actually is taking any drugs. I think he's actually an incredibly sober Christian, like
Right. Well, that's
sort of
even
like human.
scarier that
Well,
like
that's why I'm
when
so
you're
obsessed
stone
with him.
cold sober and that crazy, that's
Yes, he is,
like,
but this is what I mean. Like, this is why I'm so like down the rabbit hole and obsessed with him because he is stone cold sober, and he is like just his ideological bent is like so like entrenched that like I can't take my eyes away, and I think he's like sort of dangerous. But I always think that about people.
I
Maybe
mean,
harmless.
he's he's a
Starhill, if you're
lone
listening,
voice
we
in the
love you, buddy.
wilderness. He's a lone voice in the wilderness.
He is. Unlike
Yeah.
Starhill, who's not a lone voice in the wilderness. Let's give some props to Starhill.
Well, Starhill somehow has managed to be like, the kind of main character of Astro Twitter for like the
We love
last
that for her.
3 or 4 years. Like basically consistently the main character of Astro Twitter, which is quite a feat to like stick around. Like most people don't have the kind of tolerance for like social abuse and uh, humiliation and people piling on. They don't have the stomach for that. That Starhill does, and she's stuck through all of the astrologers here, especially she was during the Israel Palestine when that first broke out. She said some very choice comments about that really
Got her canceled.
really yeah did not a lot of people were not happy with her.
Yeah.
uh, but I mean she is one of the hottest astrologers right now. I mean she's been on Alex Jones show, she's been on the Daily Show, uh, she's been on these m- you know national programs to talk about astrology. So, like it or not, Star Heel is a representative of us astrologers,
That is true.
and
That is true.
she's been at the one of the she's becoming more and more visible.
I love Starhill. We're friends. She likes me, and I think she likes you too. So she's not always like friendly with other people, but she's definitely taken a liking to me, and has in fact, she's like, do you want to like read my chart? And then I'm like, well, I don't really love to do like natal chart readings because I don't because I moonlight as an astrologer, and I simply don't have the patience to like look at
Yes,
the chart.
yes. Well, I mean, yeah, you can't deign to read a chart. It's just you wouldn't
My eyesight
care.
is bad. I'm a boomer. Like I have
Uh,
to like really like look hard. My eyesight actually isn't bad, but I have ADHD and I can't be so focused on one thing. I have to have like multiple windows open in order for me to like feel calm. But to sum it all up, we were right. And what else can we say about this?
yes. Should we gloat?
Should we gloat? I mean, there's nothing to gloat about with regards to the technology because this has been really kind of a shady,
I
a shady
know, I
setup.
know.
But
It
I think
it
it was an
really.
overall like
I mean,
enjoyable
once we got through all the important information and we're just shooting the shit, then it decides to function
Well, we
normally.
did get through like a significant amount of important information in terms of sort of the early part of setting it all up.
Yes.
But I think if people want to call in now, they should. Like this would be the
Well,
time.
I posted the link and no one's called in. I think people are intimidated by the discussion we're having in terms of calling in. Because we haven't said that they could get their chart read, and honestly, I don't know if I really want to read any more charts
You think
tonight.
people aren't calling in right now because they're intimidated by like the caliber or by the topic matter or the subject matter?
I just think that it call in without I didn't specify why you should call in, right? And so there's like maybe they don't know what kind of call they should
Right.
do, right?
Well, let's throw in some bonus rounds then. Like let's talk about since we're all here and locked in, like let's talk a little bit about like the month of November. How about that? No?
Okay, sure.
Should we talk about like the full moon that is about to happen any moment now?
I mean, yeah, this full moon is in the middle of Taurus and Scorpio. Here, I can
Pull it up.
let me get the software up.
We're giving you guys a bonus round. And then I still can't tell if I have FOMO about like not being at the party, but then I would have to get dressed and I don't want to do that. You make these choices in life. I feel
Yeah,
like I made the right choice tonight.
yeah. It's better to.
Stay home and stay safe.
Yeah. Okay, let's share the screen. Um,
I have predictions about this full moon, and I'm happy to share them. So we'll let you kick it off, and then we'll talk a little bit about like what I see and like what I think might happen over the month of November, but really into February, but really into next May.
all right, so here we go. Let's my gosh.
Look at that wheel, Jesus Christ!
Oh yeah, the aspects. I can turn those off. Those are ridiculous.
This is the thing, if you find yourself a good astrologer, Alex is a very good astrologer. It is actually worth it to pay that astrologer the amount of money that like they request in order for them to give you like a concise reading of your natal chart, because it's actually incredibly difficult and incredibly tedious and a lot of work that goes into actually giving somebody a thorough like chart reading. This is why I don't do it.
Yeah, it is.
I
It
won't
is a
even
lot
look
of
at my own
work.
transits. I don't even care. Like I don't even care. You know this about
No,
me. I'm
it's
like
good to
Alex.
track your stuff though. All right, here we go. All right, so the full moon perfects really soon.
Yeah, it perfects at 13 degrees of Taurus in like a couple of hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this full moon, um, it's occurring at opposite this point here called Lilith. All right. So, you guys may have heard of Lilith as this, dark female sexuality archetype. Now, I don't know too much about that, but what Lilith actually is the apogee perigee axis of the moon's orbit.
Correct.
So, when the moon is conjunct Lilith, it is the closest to the Earth, and so appears to be going the slowest. When it is opposite Lilith, it is the furthest away from the Earth, and so it appears to go the fastest. Sorry, I got that. That's backwards. It's the closest, so it appears it's the furthest away, so it appears to go the slowest, versus the closest, so it appears to go the fastest. Sorry, bad
Okay.
explanation. But basically, the moon is going really fast here because it's opposite Lilith, and this is called like an affliction of the perigee, right? And this is going to make increase anxious energy. Another thing it's associated with is increasing dream activity in the collective. You may be having like more intense dreams. It's really going to just make everyone on edge, right? And it's not a very comfortable full moon. There's like some power in it, but it's also the speed of the moon makes thoughts and feelings racing, and it's like a frenetic kind of amphetamine like energy that the moon is giving out. It's like having had like 5 or 6 cups of coffee, right? And you're just way too sped up
Yep.
and jittery. That's the vibe of this full moon.
Yeah. And of course, at perigee, the gravitational pull and its impact on the tides is much stronger. So
Yes.
anytime the moon is in perigee, like the oceans are activated, the tides are like activated. So it's sort of a volatile moon. And so I think like when you look at like pop astrologers who like to say, well, the moon is in Taurus, the full moon is in Taurus, the moon is exalted in Taurus, it's going to be so beautiful and it's going to be cosmic and lovely. That just is not, that's like fake news.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
It's really
it's very
fake news.
reductive. Because yeah, you have to look at what's happening on like a physical level with this perigee. I'm glad you mentioned that the tides are more active at this point,
Yeah.
right? Because the moon is further away, so there's less gravity acting on the Earth, which means the tides can go higher, right? And so
Yes.
um, this is like kind of unleashing of forces that are normally kept at bay by the moon, right? The normal inhibitions socially that people have, the normal blocks around feelings, like the normal social niceties, all right? All of that stuff is going to be thinner, right? There's going to be less of it, right? It's going to be easier to puncture through that and unleash, some darker things that are, normally kept at bay. All right. And so people may be on edge and maybe snap and reactive. So if people in your life, have like an outsized emotional reaction over the next, day or so, it may be because of this full moon.
It may be because of the full moon. And that brings us to another configuration in the sky right now, which is that Mars just entered Sagittarius and is opposing Uranus and Gemini. So when Mars and Uranus are in a hard aspect, wild things can happen, right? And by hard aspect, I mean a conjunction, a square, or an opposition. These are considered hard aspects. And right now, Mars is in Sagittarius opposing Uranus and Gemini, both at 0 degrees. This is a hard aspect and a very volatile one. Along with this full moon, I can't imagine that like the next 10 to 12 days are going to be like smooth sailing, and I'm expecting that because of like this sort of alignment right now, we're going to see a kind of cataclysmic events unfolding over the next like 10 to 12 days around the world. Now that we're sort of squarely out of talking about the New York mayoral race, when you look at sort of these like combined like aspects in the sky, you're looking at anything from like, heightened risks of like earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. Sort of weird weather patterns like coming out of nowhere, weird like disruptive like violence or maybe social chaos. Maybe there'll be protests in the coming week because MAGA aren't going to be happy with like Mamdani's win. I mean, all of this is happening like this week. And with all of that, you also have like, Mercury about to go retrograde. So it's just like there's a lot of traffic happening. And it's not all going in like the same direction.
Yeah. No, there's a
I,
lot of chaos going on.
there's a lot of chaos. I mean, what else would you say about like hard aspects between Mars and Uranus?
I mean, so hard aspects between Mars and Uranus are associated with like, sudden disruptions, like violent actions, like, these types of things. It can be like powder keg points when Mars makes hard aspects to Uranus. Um, one thing that I'd like to put forward is having a high potential to happen very, very soon is this prediction I made previously about Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump, and like the revelation of more information regarding their relationship. I've been saying for a while that I think between November 10th and November 28th, there is going to be further reveals and developments with Trump and how tied in he is with Epstein. Um, my personal speculation is that the information that's going to be revealed may have something to do with Melania and the fact that her green card may have been illegally obtained through Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation or in connection with it, that there may be some kind of connection there that ties Trump to Epstein in this legal way. And I think that, we may get information about that. Now, I don't think this story with Trump and Epstein is really going to be over until, Jupiter is through cancer, right, and goes back in like end of May, beginning of June next year. But I think that the next plot point for this story is coming up soon, and S.J. Anderson kind of alluded to agreeing with me. He used a different technique. He did not use composite charts, but he looked at eclipse charts, and he found that there was a window leading up to about November 20th where there could be some activation with this Epstein story and bigger reveals about Epstein. So um, look out for the next month because I think we're gonna learn something more about Epstein, and that could light a big fire under people, because it's pretty universally condemned. That guy. There's not too many Epstein fans, right? That you
No,
know.
I mean, I think Trump was an Epstein fan for a long time, and I think he's obviously really look. He's keeping the government shut down because he doesn't want like the government. I mean, there are many reasons why he's keeping the government shut down because Russ Vought wants to basically like do a house cleaning and completely gut the administrative state and fire everybody and replace all the bureaucrats, the 800,000 furloughed federal workers with like AI, right? Like that's what like the main end goal is for like prolonging the shutdown. But it's also to prevent like the confirmation of like this crucial vote needed, this like last vote needed to like actually release the unredacted files. Because all of the information that that Alex has been talking about is contained in those files. The FBI has already seen it, right? Like Cash Patel, Pam Bondi, all these people, they've seen it and they're obstructing justice. And that's essentially what they're doing. And they don't want to confirm um, Adelita Grijalva, the congresswoman who would have been the 218th vote, to force the vote for the full release of those files. So he's just buying time because he already knows what that's going to do to him reputationally. Because in those files, it is likely going to outline a lot of like what you just talked about. I mean, it may not like I mean, like my belief is that like maybe the Wall Street Journal or maybe the Washington Post, several media outlets definitely have the full files already. They just are sitting on it because they're not quite sure what to print. But like when the hammer drops, when the files that are unredacted are released in full, that is when the mayhem begins. And then that will create like real problems for Trump because then he'll feel really humiliated. And it's not even so much that he's going to feel humiliated. Again, it's really his wife who's going to really be like the target of like all of the gossip and sort of salacious, you know, chatter because she's really the one that he's trying to protect. It's not him. He's got like a really thick skin. I think she doesn't want to be seen as someone who was sex trafficked to him. That's like a
Right.
bummer for her.
Yeah.
And this is why
Makes
she's
sense.
suing his biographer for $1 billion. His biographer, Michael Wolff, who basically also has all the details and who's been very public about it, and who recently joined Substack because he's literally been like, I mean, Melania Trump is suing him for $1 billion because she's trying to silence him because he has all the information. So it'll be very interesting. We'll return to this at the end of November or maybe the middle of November when more details emerge around
Yeah,
this.
yeah. If more information comes out about Trump and Epstein, I will be doing a stream about it. Um, and yeah, yeah, I think it's I don't know. I don't know as if the whole list is going to come out. I think that though that there could be some damaging information about Trump specifically come out though. But I feel like that I don't know if there is going to be I I'm just so used to it though. There's always some kind of limited hangout, right? There's always something that's kept back, right? I just don't know. I mean, we've been waiting how long for the JFK files? You know?
I mean, a lot has been already been revealed. I mean,
Oh, I
he's
know that. It's just not
been
officially,
deposed.
yeah, released, right? Like, I mean, a lot of the stuff that's been officially released in the last couple of years uh, is stuff that has been in the public record and that you could research since like 2015, 2016, right? Like
Yeah.
that black book of Epstein's, that has been around since before 2016.
Yeah.
So, it's, yeah, nothing new under the sun, like they say.
Listen, so maybe we should like wrap up with some type of like Astro roundup. Like, is there anything we want to say like about what people should be watching out for the month of November? Stay home,
I,
stay safe.
yeah, I mean, I would say to, um, watch
It's a
out.
challenging Mercury retrograde we're heading into. So if you're traveling, like, do actually like, I know it sounds like really cliche, but like get to the airport early and like be prepared that you might miss your flight. Like this is actually very real because it is
Yeah,
chaos in the sky. And it's not simply just the tropes that we're accustomed to of Mercury being in retrograde. It is also that right now, they're missing 3,000 air traffic controllers, right? Like
yeah,
TSA people aren't showing up for work because like they're working without pay. So it's like the government is shut down. We're in like month 2 of the government shutdown with no sight and end. And so it's happening at the time of a Mercury retrograde that is like traveling through 2 signs. And so it's going to be a really tricky Mercury in retrograde. I don't know what systems of communication might fail, but I expect a lot to fail. And also just systems of operations will fail. So,
yeah. And that's going to be happening very soon with Mercury and stationing and declination. That seems to be the time that you get the actual disruptive effects from the Mercury retrograde, is when it also coincides with it changing directions, going north and south in the sky, which is called declination.
that happens on
Uh,
the 10th, right?
yeah, yeah, that happens in along with Saturn stationing direct and uh,
Uranus going back into Taurus for
Uranus
the
going
planet.
back into Taurus.
Yeah.
So basically, holidays with your family may be a little bit tense this year. I've actually had several clients recently that I've had to warn. I'd be like, look, like this, uh, right after Thanksgiving looks like there could be like some increased likelihood of conflict and upset. And so, you may want to just be aware of that. And if someone close to you is aggressive, you be prepared for that, because I don't know, it just seems like emotions are running high this November. I'm seeing it in a lot of individual charts, and you can see it uh in the transiting astrology. I mean, this Mercury's turning retrograde, and it's going to go right back in conjunct Mars. As soon as it turns retrograde, it's going to turn right back around and march straight back towards Mars.
Which is
And
opposing
so that's
Uranus.
like, fights. That's fights, arguments,
Tons of
you
fights, yeah.
know, um,
But remember, when
disagreements.
it does that, Mars will have moved into Scorpio and Uranus will have moved into Taurus. So again, it's another oppositional axis, right? Like
Yeah.
right now,
Well,
it's like,
actually, Mars will be in Sagittarius when they conjunct again, but Mars is
oh,
changing signs right now. The Mars Uranus opposition's happening right now, and then, uh, yeah,
but
and then it's
wait, Mars will be in Scorpio.
Mars is in Scorpio now. It's changing to Sagittarius.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bumpy ride for the month of November. And really, I have to say, I think it's going to be bumpy through the rest of the year. I mean, of course, in your personal chart, there can be some really like lovely transits, and you shouldn't like take these like warnings that we're like tossing out so seriously. We're not trying to be foreboding or like doom and gloom here, but it is like important to understand like what you're like, kind of like what you're working under.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
really
Just take it as it comes, and if you have setbacks, or if there's people that are acting out of the ordinary, you know what I mean. Sometimes you can just chalk it up to the astrology and give it a second before you jump in and try and affect things. Sometimes it's patience. Just wait till you know. I mean, December looks a lot better, honestly. Uh,
December does look a lot better, and I think I mean, this goes back to sort of a Mars Uranus hard aspect. I think that like when Uranus basically goes back into Taurus on the 7th, is it the 7th? Can you check that for me? Because I'm not looking anymore. I think it's the 7th. When it goes back into Taurus for its like sort of last hurrah and I mean like last hurrah in our lifetimes, like we're not going to see this happen again. like we're probably going to see like corrections, like really sharp corrections in the stock markets, in the financial markets, right? And that is going to probably like really make people very uncomfortable as they head into the holidays, because of course, like if you see like the market tumbling at the end of November, that doesn't make you feel good about going into Christmas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna
Saturn.
be up and down, a lot of volatility in the financial markets with this like sort of last hurrah of Uranus being in Taurus. So we'll see how it shakes out, but I think it's going to be very volatile between now and the time Uranus actually moves into Gemini forever.
Mm,
Which one is that? Is that July or May? May. I can't remember.
yeah, it's next year sometime.
Yeah, it's next spring.
Yeah.
But yeah, between now and then, like I really think that people are going to be on edge. Not just not just here in the U.S., but all over the world, because I think it is like
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, we're going to be having the nodal return of the 2008 financial crisis, right? So the nodes are going to be returning to the same spot they were at. It's that 18.5 year Metonic cycle we've talked about before on the show. That's so there's a resonance point coming up with 2008 financial crisis, and that's coming into play now, and it's basically the whole time the nodes are in Leo and Aquarius. So
yeah. So by next spring, we're going to really start seeing this like shake out, right?
yes, next spring I think is when the financial bumps really start to. That's when we'll start to get an idea of like what becomes apparent, like or that there's a problem, right? Like because you remember how in 2007 is like Lehman Brothers announced that like a couple of their hedge funds had
Yeah, it's
gone
happening now.
under, and
It's
that was
happening
like
now.
that was like the canary in the coal mine back then that we looked back on and we're like, oh, this is the first sign that there was a problem. I think something like that's going to happen this spring.
But
That
it's already happened. Like if you actually go back to like the Mars Uranus conjunction in August of 2022, basically like the Standard and Poor dropped by 10%, and
that's
like
3 years ago now,
right, but that
right?
was like the first pass. That was the first pass of this conjunction. I'm talking about like Mars Uranus specifically,
Right,
and like
right.
when it ends. So I'm talking like because we're looking at all three passes. I mean, obviously, it's good to like look at the nodes as well because they all are part of like a larger sky story, if you will. But like the first like sign of rupture happened during that pass in August of 2022 because the market completely bottomed out and everybody
Yeah,
panicked.
that was during the Saturn Uranus square, and so the Saturn Uranus is even worse than Mars Uranus, and when I think Saturn and Uranus are going to be making a sextile, which with the outer planets, the sextiles are actually not good, right? That the sextiles can be activations that are negative when you're dealing with the outer planets, and so they can be negative other times, but that's a rabbit hole. Uh, Basically, you're right. When Uranus goes back into Gemini, it's going to sextile Saturn, and that is,
That's going to be probably the final boss event, to be honest. I think that like it's going to be volatile and like I think it'll fluctuate between. I mean, if I had to predict like what will happen, I think they'll probably be like a really I think December will actually be really good for the markets. I think the markets will really rally in December. That doesn't really mean anything for like households, right? Like we already know that American households are suffering based on like just the economic data that's like being presented to us. But in terms of the market and the investor class, they will do well through December and probably even into January and February. But I don't think that like the full sort of crash is going to happen until that Saturn square again. And that is when it's going to be like so bad that they have to basically do some type of like bailout that will be different than the bailout of 2008, that will be more
right.
similar to the bailout that happened in 1937. Yeah, that's what I think will happen. It'll be more similar to that because I think that was sort of like the tail end of the Great Depression. So during the banking crisis of 37 and 38, there was an insane recession and then like monetary policy tightened, and then there was like major financial panic. And then by 1933, 11,000 banks in the United States had failed. So then they had to immediately, that was like a huge crisis. Obviously, we weren't born yet. That was like a huge contraction in the GDP, and that it was, they were basically unable to recover. So they had to create like whole new systems, right? Like that was when like these major reforms happened in the late 30s, and that was when the New Deal happened. So it's like if we look back on like that pattern, we need a New Deal. The American people need a New Deal. They need that. And so when does that play out? TBD. Will it play out? We don't know. But that's what we need. We actually need a New Deal type set of policies. We've
So
needed
the next Uranus Saturn hard aspect is in like 2030, I believe, when they conjunct in Gemini. And so 2030, that's been, a lot of people have been touting that year, right? It's like, oh, the AI singularity by 2030. Oh, we'll be on Mars by 2030. Oh, like you'll all be eating bugs by 2030. Lots of people like to use the year 2030 as this signpost for when something either good or horrible is going to happen. Lots of crackpots love to have theories about 2030, but it does seem like 2030, according to the astrology, is a turning point, because that's when I believe we're going to have the next Mars, but next Saturn Uranus conjunction.
I mean, maybe that's when, there'll be some type of like New Deal, who knows? Because the thing is, if we don't get that, then we are basically going to get like bars of like whatever food that they give us in the like food rationing line.
It's actually
like
2031, I believe, that it happens, not 2030. But 2030 Saturn goes into Gemini. So, yeah, but it's 2031 they'll actually conjunct.
I mean, I think it's like it's not worth like kind of getting down the doom and gloom rabbit hole, but definitely, we're not. It's not like it gets better in December, yes, but like for the collective, it might not. It's not going to get better overall for the collective.
Yeah, I think that next year, um, I mean, I think that there will be like that nodal return of the 2008 crisis is not going to go unnoticed, right? That is going to there's definitely going to be some kind of disruption, major disruption in the financial markets next year during these eclipses in Leo and Aquarius.
So that
So,
basically aligns and converges with like May,
mm,
right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there'll be eclipses starting in
March, late February.
well, yeah, because there'll be the last of the Virgo Pisces eclipses, but then there'll be some eclipses in Leo and Aquarius, which will be in
In March.
July
Oh, in
and
July.
August, and then January, and then
But the
February.
first Leo, wait, the first Aquarius eclipse will occur in March though.
So,
It's not until July. I think the first one of like that set of eclipses happens in March or February. I can't remember. I haven't looked in like a couple of months, but I think it's like worth looking at. Like maybe not right now because maybe we're like a little bit like fried, but it's like all worth like revisiting.
so the eclipse is coming up here next year. Yeah, these. So there's some in February, March, and then there's some in August. Um, yeah, here's 2027. These are the
So
points.
March.
These, yeah, but it's not necessarily going to be associated with exactly on the eclipses. If I'm going to predict when the market's going to downturn, that would be a whole another rabbit hole. But basically, if we want to get a very broad time period, 2026 to spring 2027, right? That 18-month span, for sure, something will happen. Now, I'll be back with more specific dates on when I think something could happen. But yeah, that's what.
I think the first downturn is going to happen this month. So that is my prediction, and it's already happening. Like regional banks aren't needing to be bailed out. We're seeing all the cracks already. The same signatures.
Yes. There's a lot of like, like even though the S&P is up overall, it's really only 10 companies that are up and like 80% of it's down, you
Correct.
know.
And like,
Yeah.
auto delinquencies are at an all-time high. Credit card, like, loan credit card, like paybacks are like 4 months behind. I mean, it's just, it's all there. It's the same signatures of like an economy that is basically going to like fall through the floor. And I don't know, I mean, we'll know more. I mean, I don't want to like alarm people who are still like listening right now, because now we're turning into like doomers. But I mean, I guess we could like wrap up, or we could see if anybody's like
Yeah. Yeah, I think
bold enough to
I
call
need
in.
to go because I've got to be in court early in the morning. So I should
Okay,
probably
which
go
is
and
fine.
wind down. But it's been really fun. Thanks for joining me for the stream, and
You're
I
welcome.
hope we can do more like this in the future. Guys, I will be streaming more frequently. Going to be trying to do that with the occult chat and also the Astro live show. Um, Trying to do a little bit more of an in-depth dive with the Astro live stuff. So this was our first attempt. It will improve as we go, especially as we get better equipment. Then I think we
I may
will.
never get better equipment because I'm like weird. Like I've just been using this like janky phone for 5 years because I and all
Well,
of my friends like who
yeah.
know me wonder why I haven't upgraded my phone. It's because I have all this like sensitive information on my
There's
phone.
a microphone you can buy that Chris Brennan sends to all his guests. I'll send it to you. It's
Send me
very
the
cheap.
link.
It's like
Send me
twenty
the link.
dollars.
The thing is,
Yeah.
this phone is probably not going to survive this retrograde. I'm pretty aware that this is like the last legs of like this phone, and I just have to like get my ass in gear and just go to the Apple store and say, "Sir, I need you to like transfer these incredibly sensitive files onto this like thumb drive, and do not steal them because there's interesting, sensitive information on it." So I'm going to do that. All right, we're going to say goodbye to you guys now. This was fun,
Yes, this was
and
very fun.
yeah, we were right. And congratulations are on Mamdani. And good luck to you, Andrew Cuomo, as you prepare to pack your bags and take the L train all the way to Mar-a-Lago, where you'll have a nice accommodation in Donald Trump's bathroom, the same bathroom where he stored his little secret government papers. Good
Yeah,
luck to you.
maybe he'll have a girl there to give him a massage too.
He probably will. We probably will. That's a good point.
Cuomo
Okay,
can go
bye,
get
guys.
yeah.